Welcome back. Thanks again for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. Check this out. On June 7th, 1991, that was a special day. On that day, I graduated from high school. Now, I'll be honest, just saying those words make me feel old. It's hard to believe it's been 30 years since the day that I walked across the stage at Wilson High School. But I wanted to, make this podcast just to give me a chance to reflect and reminisce and, shout out the great class of 1991. Again, it feels weird and it makes me feel really old to say it's been 30 years, but it has been 30 years. But I'll be honest, it really doesn't feel like it. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I think one of the things that stood out to me that from that particular day was tears, but not for me. I guess I just remember a lot of people crying, and that's cool. But like for me, I expected to graduate from high school, and I think looking back on it now, 30 years later, I think I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but I don't think I really savored that day the way that I probably should have that particular day. The reason being is because, like I said, I expected it to happen. Honestly, at the time, I felt like me graduating from high school wasn't that big of a deal. While I did view it as an accomplishment, honestly, I didn't put a lot of stock into it. And the reason being is because I always had in my mind the graduation that would have mattered would have been the one where I graduated from college. But I felt like if there was going to be a time and a place for me to cry, that would have been it. Ironically, I didn't cry at my college graduation either, but that's beside the point. But, looking back on June 7th, 1991, it was a very, very special occasion. And like I said, I noticed that more than a few of my classmates were crying. It had been a long road for all of us, really, to be honest. It was a culmination of, starting something and finishing. For me, on a personal note, I had gone through some things as far as, my parents divorcing and everything when I was in the 7th grade. And for the most part, most of the people that I went to high school with, I went to middle school with. So the majority of our class, at least for me, I've known them at least since 7th grade, right? And there were a few that I knew from my elementary school. So we went back even further. But, these people that, because for us, 7th and 8th grade was middle school. So you had 7th grade, 8th grade, and then obviously you go to high school. We went to Williams Middle School, and then we went to Wilson High School in Florence, South Carolina. And, it was a big deal to graduate. And I think I just didn't, looking back on it, I don't think I really just, stopped and kind of smelled the roses like I probably should have. But a couple of things stood out to that day. First and foremost, like our graduation was it was different. And what I mean by that is that, most high school graduations you have, you come in and play the pomp and circumstance and you sit down and you get, a couple of people speak, the valedictorian speaks, salutatorian speaks, you get your diplomas and you peel out. Ours was like that, but like it's a very traditional ceremony and it's a very sacred ceremony. That's the way that it was explained to us, and a very classy ceremony. So our principal, Mr. Brooks. Shout out to Mr. Brooks. I know he's listening. Um, our principal, what they requested was they requested that there be no applause when the names are read. And then after, everybody has gotten their diploma and they say, you may now salute the graduates of, Wilson High School class of 1991, then people were supposed to make noise. But you couldn't make any noise when they call the graduate's name, right? So if if they call my name and I walk across stage and you make noise or start clapping or something like that, like they would literally escort you out the gym. So you couldn't make any noise, and you couldn't. And at the end of the ceremony, there was no, tossing of your cap or anything. No, you kept that cap on. You turned your tassel or whatever, but you had to keep your cap on, and the whole nine. And one of my fondest memories from that day was, as they were calling the names, they got to a kid in our class, cat who I actually played Little League football with, real good dude, man. This guy by the name of Elroy Myers. And Elroy was cool. Elroy had been through some things, experienced some things. So, graduating, just like most of us, graduating for Elroy was, it was a big deal in his family. You know what I'm saying? I think he might have had some people that didn't graduate from high school. So that was big. So they get to the part where they call Elroy's name. And they said, Elroy Myers. And so, again, you can't clap or you can't cheer or anything. And all of a sudden, all you hear is, yeah, Elroy, you go, boy. We so proud of you. We so proud of you, boy. Mr. Brooks looked up, he stood up, and he pointed. And security subsequently escorted Elroy's people out of the gym. But it was cool, man. I mean, again, if you knew his story, you understood why his family was cheering like that for him. And it was so funny because everybody, all you could hear was just, people like whisper, because it was the only voices that you heard. But his family was like, they didn't care. They were happy to get there and see him graduate. And I understood. And it was some things that we had to deal with, leading up to graduation, as far as I give you a perfect example, like our accommodations. The graduation was in our high school gym, which is a fairly nice sized gym, but you could only have 10 tickets for graduation, right? So if you came from a big family, maybe your mom and dad got, of course your mom and dad, and your brothers and sisters, but maybe your cousin, you might not have had a ticket for your cousin, or you might not have had a ticket for your auntie or your Uncle Jerome. So it kind of worked out for me because even though I have a fairly nice sized family, both me and my cousin Eric, who, if you follow the podcast, is my cousin who I always got into trouble with. My cousin Eric, we both graduated in this in 1991. So between the two of us, we had 20 tickets. So we were able to get our family there and everything like that. But little things like that. But I also, over that period of time, even as we were leading up to graduation, I was reflecting back and just really reminiscing about, what our class had gone through. We had lost a couple of classmates, and it was just, it was a different vibe. The class of 1991 at Wilson High School, we were different. A very, very different bunch of individuals. Again, most of us, like I said, most of us had gone to school at least for 6 years of, middle school and then high school. There are some kids in my class who had gone to school with each other literally since like kindergarten. And so, friendships and bonds that were formed and everything like that. But it was, I guess the best way I can describe it is there's a level of pride when you graduate from Wilson, so that was big for us as well. But being in that class of 1991 was very important because the class of 91 is a different class. And I mean, like, we weren't, I can't say all of us, but for the most part, the class really wasn't, at least it did, to me, it didn't appear that we got to be that close really until the end of the school year. And, we were a bunch of individuals that really didn't connect really, as a whole, but for the most part, but I guess the best way I can describe, we had a lot of cliques. And so we were cool you were cool in your clique, but your clique might not like this clique. And so, but there was never no beef or anything like that, but just some great individuals. And I think that's one of the things that I've always loved about my class. And, I can say this, even 30 years later, there's nobody in my class that I dislike. I mean, like, now it's some people in my class, and I'm not going to name any names, who still dislike this person for whatever reason. I'm like, bro, it's been 30 years, man. I mean, if dude slept with your girl 30 years ago, I mean, she ain't your girl now. Why do you still care? I mean, like, but I love my class, man. I love the class. And like I said, real cool people, good people to know and everything like that. And I'll be honest, and Florence isn't a big place. I've said that before in this podcast. It's not a big place, and it's the school where my mom actually went to school. You know what I'm saying? So she graduated from Wilson. So my mom and my aunts and my uncles all graduated from Wilson. Now, obviously, my kids won't graduate from Wilson because once I went to college, I did not come back or at least live in Florence anymore. My parents still live there. But it was a great day. It was June 7th, 1991 was a great day. And I mentioned earlier about my classmates crying. And I get it, and I remember someone saying to cherish those moments because that would be the last time that we would all be together. And did I know that? I'm not really sure if I did. But Wilson was like I said, a very special place. And it still is very unique. Just to give you an idea, at the time, Wilson was probably about 90% black, 10% white. But yet there was racial harmony. I mean, like, everybody, we didn't have any racial issues. Everybody got along. If you had a friend, they were your friend. It wasn't your white friend or your black friend. But for me, I had my crew and my clique of people that I ran with. And, I can honestly say those friends that I made at Wilson are still friendships that I have to this day. Lifetime friends. Now, my crew, you've heard some of my crew on this podcast. Those are lifetime bonds that'll never be broken. The thing that always comes to my mind when I think about Wilson and I think about the class of 91 and I think about graduating that particular day was, just the level of pride that we have in our school and who we are and who we represent. It's a big thing to say I'm a Wilson graduate. I do remember after graduation, after the ceremony was over, we walked out and I walked into what we call the Commons area, which was like the cafeteria area where the students would kind of congregate. And I remember standing like in this one little section, and my boy Zell, he was standing in one little section, and we just kind of stood and we just, because there was a huge crowd of people in one area, and we didn't kind of want to get, in the middle of that. So we were off to the side. And looking back on it now, it probably looked kind of arrogant if I was able to kind of step outside of myself. But it was cool. I got a chance to see everybody, got a chance to, give hugs and dap and everything like that. And I just remember, seeing everybody crying and stuff. And I was like, I know I couldn't bring myself to tears because literally in my mind, I was preparing myself for what was next. And what was next for me was South Carolina State University, which is where I would be heading in the fall. So I don't think that looking back on it, I don't think that I really relished everything that happened that particular day. I relished, I think I enjoyed the fact of seeing everybody and, hugs and dap and the whole nine. But I think I might have taken 4 pictures that day. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have taken a ton of pictures. And I think, obviously it's not like how it is now, because, keep in mind, there was no internet in 1991. But, and there weren't no cell phones or anything like that. So, you had your little Polaroid joints or your regular, camera that you had to get the film developed. So, looking back on it, if I had the opportunity, I would have taken more pictures. And in fact, the cover art is one of the 4 pictures that I took that day. And that's this right here, the cover art that you see on this podcast is a picture of me and my boy Shaft. Shout out to Shaft, who he played basketball, and this is my dude. We've been running since 7th grade. And I would have taken more pictures. And you just never know how life is going to go. Unfortunately, we were faced with adversity like maybe 2 weeks after graduation. We lost 2 classmates in a car accident. And, it was sad. And I mean, like, I think when I heard of the news about that, it made me reflect back to why some of my classmates were crying at graduation. And, for some of them, maybe they weren't ready to leave. Maybe they weren't ready to leave home, or maybe they just loved the place so much that, they didn't know how they would move on. But the thing about Wilson is that it always made you feel like you were at home. And no matter where you went in the world, you were always welcome back at home. And I still feel like that to this day. I played football at Wilson. I was in a lot of activities. I think I was popular. But I really enjoyed those 4 years. And for as much fun and, excitement as I had at South Carolina State University, these 4 years at Wilson prepared me for that. And, unlike a lot of people where they go to, college and find themselves, I knew who I was at Wilson. And I think Wilson helped develop me into being who I was going to be. But like I said, I don't think if I had to do it all over again, I definitely would have taken it in more, kind of stopped and smelled the roses. Because I just remember when graduation was over, like I was ready to go home and watch Game 3 of the NBA Finals. It was Jordan versus Magic, the Bulls versus the Lakers in Game 3 in L.A. Jordan, I remember, went off for like 29, and Magic had, I think, 22, and the Bulls won. They took the lead in the series 2-1. But that's where my focus was. My focus was getting home and watching Game 3, and then the next day, because we graduated on a Friday, and then the next day we had a pool party at my house. And my classmates came through, and it was dope, man. It was good, just to kick it one last time. And for a lot of them, honestly, most of us, our lives changed after that day, because some went into the workforce, some went into the military, and a lot of us went off to college. And, honestly, looking back on it, like that's the last time that I actually lived in my hometown, so it was major. But graduation day was special. It was special, just seeing the sights and seeing my classmates and, you know, watching us accomplish something. I think it's always great to see people graduate from something and be celebrated for it, because it's an accomplishment, and it's really the first of many accomplishments that you'll have in your lifetime. And we got it all started right there that day, June 7th, 1991 at Wilson High School. And I will forever be a proud alum and a proud Wilson Tiger. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 Gs.